Welcome to Yelling Into the Void, a podcast discussing and exploring topics in World of Warcraft. I'm Tevin, joined as always by Scott. And Scott, the week has come.
What?
There is so much to go over that we will probably attempt to do a lot in one podcast, fail, and then attempt to do a lot in one podcast again and fail. And then maybe like 3 weeks from now, we'll have covered everything. And when people have forgotten about, all the shit that came out this past week.
It really is feast or famine in the World of Warcraft news. Like we literally didn't have an episode last week because there was nothing to talk about, and then suddenly we have far too much to talk about.
It's like drinking from a water hose right now.
Yeah,
it's
actually insane.
Well, I guess let's just jump in because there is a lot I want to cover. And just to be completely frank with you guys, we're probably not going to get to all of it today. So we'll go in what I feel like is the most important order as far as like controversial things first and, go down from there. So I guess the TLDR for the midnight stuff that has happened in this past week is there is a bunch of class design changes. And that's like class philosophy as a whole. Philosophies around healing is changing, encounter design is changing. Obviously, the add-ons, stuff that we've talked about before, is coming a lot sooner than Scott and I predicted. Defensives have been pruned, which is something we've been asking for a long time. Housing has been seen at least a little bit. Not necessarily the housing and like interactions with housing so much as like the zones in which you can build your houses. And that will be coming in early access in December. So like just a couple months from now, which seems a little bit crazy to me. Like I knew they were going to release this fairly early, but like it feels weird to me. We're getting one of the like box items so early before midnight.
Yeah, I mean it
just feels a bit weird.
Like best case midnight comes out February, right? And so that's housing 2 to 2.5 months early, possibly up to 3 months if midnight doesn't hit till early March. So yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So last things to talk about. And again, I don't know if we're going to get to everything, but Legion Remix has started. And what I am dubbing Turbo Meh has started, at least for this first couple weeks where we have Turbo Boost, because, I don't know. Scott and I talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago, but we'll get into the details on that. But Turbo Boost is not necessarily so turbo right now.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so Scott, I have this down first because I feel like this is like the antithesis to everything that they are doing. So I think first and foremost, we have to talk about add-ons and the stance that Blizzard has around add-ons, because I think that is the driving force behind a lot of the other changes that they are making in Midnight.
It is. And like, that's the thing when we get to talking about class design, and we get to talking about encounter design, and we get to talking about even healing design, it all stems from this one central change, which is launch of Midnight add-ons are dead. Well, combat add-ons, the ability to read what is happening during combat will be turned off. The developers are describing it as a black box, right? And that's happening in 3 months, possibly. Which, like you said in the introduction, like is faster than both you and I, and I think everyone else talking about this kind of stuff predicted. Nobody thought it was going to happen this soon. If you look back and listen to our conversations, my hypothesis for how they were going to handle this whole thing is they were going to bring their version of details, their version of DBM, their version of weak ores. They were going to bring all these things in Midnight, but that they were going to leave the add-on functionality on, and they were going to continue to iterate on their design throughout the expansion. And then it would be later, maybe the last Titan, where they were going to cut this stuff off. That's not what they're doing. And that is, I think, the most shocking and kind of, for a lot of people, like world exploding news that came out of the Midnight stuff last week.
Yeah. So just to be clear, a lot of what we're going to be talking about, like these Midnight philosophy changes, add-ons, class design, healer design, encounter design, all of that, these are very, very polarizing topics in the WoW community right now. And I think that Scott and I have a little bit more of a different thought process on this than a lot of the big WoW content creators do.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of dooming going around. And while I think that there's still a lot of work to be done with the add-ons that they have, I think the nameplates in particular still need a lot of work, and unit frames. Um, I just don't necessarily see a world where this is like the death of the game. Like, if we can get to a point where I don't have to download Plater to get the functionality of Plater in the game, is that really a bad thing?
No, I mean that like, so there's so many different angles at which to attack this whole thing, but it's like ultimately they have decided that for the health of the game, the developers of the game feel that the ability to parse and read combat data real time is something they don't want to exist anymore. And that's a decision they've made, and they're going forward with it right now because they feel that the best possible path to making sure their replacement for all the things they're about to turn off and design changes and all these philosophies, it's best happening all at once. It's best to rip the Band-Aid, to strip everything down, and then throughout the course of testing, build back up in ways that you need to. That is a decision they've made, and is it a shocking decision? I feel like there's two different groups of responses to this I've seen, negative responses to this I've seen. One of those groups is people that just think that it is a bad idea to turn off add-ons, right? That it is just that, like, this philosophy of we don't think add-ons are good for the game. We think add-ons are ruining, are leading to this arms race and ruining encounter design and doing all these things. There are people that just disagree fundamentally with that idea, and so they're not happy. And those people, I just like, I don't even know what to say to those people. I just fundamentally disagree with them. And so it's just like, okay, agree to disagree. I think there's a second group of people that I think agree philosophically with the decision to remove add-ons, but are worried about Blizzard's ability to implement off the design philosophy. And those people, I'm like, I feel you. I get you. I understand why you're worried about that, because this is a rather large undertaking they've decided to take on. Like we when Midnight was announced, we were talking about, oh man, this is kind of like new feature light, right? I mean, they have these Apex talents, and obviously housing was a big thing, but like there's not really much new in this expansion. It turns out is because they were holding back all this, which is basically they're having to redo everything. And so I think it's fine to be a little cautious and maybe even concerned on their ability to execute on the things that they've promised. But I think just like I have a hard time looking at any of the philosophical posts that they've made over the last week and thinking any of it is bad for the game philosophically. Mm-hmm. Like I just think it's for the health of the game, everything they're saying is exactly what I think the game needs.
Yeah, so we've had a version of something that WoW has decided, or Blizzard has decided that they wanted to give to us early, and that's the cooldown manager. And so I think that they gave this to the general public maybe too early, but like the philosophy was get it to people early so that they can tweak it, they can get feedback and everything like that. But I think that might be driving a lot of people away from thinking Blizzard can actually tackle this.
Yeah.
Because the cooldown manager in its first iteration was rough. In its current iteration, even with the updates that they did to it just yesterday, just on the 7th, like it's still not great, but seeing what it is in the Midnight Alpha, it looks leaps and bounds better than it currently is.
Yeah, and maybe it's still not even perfect, and it's never going to be a perfect replacement for what you had. But I agree that add-ons at large being this necessary mandatory thing is bad for the health of the game. There's probably a lot of people that listen to this podcast that have been playing World of Warcraft basically nonstop since it came out. Maybe they take little breaks here and there. But I just want to tell y'all, from the perspective of someone who quit this game for years, for almost a decade, there were times when I thought about coming back to the game, and the prospect of having to figure out my UI, figuring out add-ons to download, figure out like where to even get the add-ons, because like the process of downloading add-ons and installing add-ons has changed over the years. The heavy lift of like figuring all that shit out just to begin my journey with the game stopped me multiple times and just said, I don't want to bother with this. This is too much work. And so like it is a change that I think needs to happen. It is something that like is just going to ultimately be good for people getting into the game. I think it's ultimately going to be good for people that enjoy the game and like the game. I think having like, I think one of the things people are doing is they are looking at the game, the design of the game as it exists today, and imagining what that would be like if I don't have my weak auras and I don't have these combat detection. And like, it's important to realize that that's not what the game is going to look like, right? Like, and I understand it's the only thing you have to compare to, right? If someone says we're taking this away, and all you can imagine is what the current iteration of the game would look like without X. And it's like, well, they understand that. Like at least philosophically, they understand that. And that's why they're doing all these other things too, is they understand I can't just take away weak auras and DBM and Omni CD. I also have to fundamentally change how I design the game. And so like the drum that I'm going to be beating for the next 3-4 months, however long alpha, beta, whatever is like, let's give them a shot to figure this out. And there might even be growing pains. Like it might end up being like the first season of Midnight is a bit of a mess. But like the first season of The War Within was a bit of a mess too, right? For different reasons, but it was a bit of a mess. And eventually they figured things out. And so like, I think in my opinion, it is worth the growing pains of them trying this thing to get to hopefully a state where I don't have to freaking install add-ons and deal with that headache. And like on patch day, I can actually just go play the game instead of like sitting here refreshing WoW up to see if they've pushed new versions of LVUI and all the shit so my game doesn't blow up. And also just like so the memory usage of my game can go down dramatically because all the shit takes so much memory. And it's all these things. Like I see the world without all this stuff. I'm like, man, if they pull this off, that's going to be a great fucking world.
Yeah. So I do think that there is a distinction that needs to be made because when people read the Wowhead articles or they just hear us blanketedly talking about add-ons, you already said specifically combat add-ons. And I think even more specific than that, Blizzard has said add-ons like the black box happens when you enter combat.
Right.
Like
Yep.
they don't want to restrict anything outside of combat. Well, they're going to restrict more than they did previously. But Weak Auras has already said like they're not continuing to develop their add-on. So we don't like Weak Auras is going to be gone. But when we talk about like UI and UI placement stuff, things like LVUI or your bag add-on or your talent like manager thing that people have made now, like all of those things should in theory still be able to exist.
Yeah.
That being said, Blizzard's setting a precedent that at any point they can decide that they want to turn off the API your add-on uses. Might push some add-on developers away. But at least going forward, Blizzard so far has said combat only stuff, things that parse combat data in combat are the things that are going to go away. Everything else should be there still, is my understanding. And I think what their goal is, but that doesn't mean they're not going to turn something off and then that's also going to impact something else. You know?
Yeah. So nameplates, Plater will not function. Weak auras, as we've already said, will not function. Like you won't be able to. Like there's a lot of things that the cooldown manager can do. The things that it cannot do right now is there's really no dot tracking. So like a lot of dots have pandemic windows, which is you refresh them and you get full duration plus whatever its current duration is. There's no good way of tracking that right now. I think the new the Blizzard not unit frames, the Blizzard nameplates will show dots on it, but much harder to see than like a weak aura that flashes bright when you hit the pandemic window. Stuff like that is gone. But maybe stuff like pandemic windows are going away, which like it's hard to, it's hard to
Yeah.
say like, is that fun gameplay? Is it fun gameplay to have like, yeah, I mean, this is all the stuff like class design, encounter design, add-on design, like all this stuff. It's none of these decisions are being made in a vacuum. They are all part and parcel of like the same thing. You adjust one, you have to adjust the other.
Mm-hmm. Before we move away from add-ons, Scott, there is one thing that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to bring it up here because I had brought it up in our group chat, and I felt like I had a differing viewpoint from you. And normally you and I agree pretty well on things, but
Sure.
I am very worried about losing Omni CD because it doesn't seem like there's anything to replace it currently. And even though like we are going to be talking about like class design and or class philosophy and encounter philosophy later, it just feels weird to me that like at a very base level, we're losing the ability to see kicks in our party.
Yeah. I get Omni CD out of here. I'm fine with it. I agree with you that the game should have some sort of kick tracker. Like they have to do one of two things. They either have to make it so kicks are so infrequent and unnecessary that you don't need to track your group's kicks, or they need to add some sort of kick tracker. And this is when I think they should just, we talked about Fellowship a couple weeks ago. This is when they should just go into the Fellowship box and just yoink their version of the kick tracker, which is just pretty solid, actually. So basically, for those that don't know, in Fellowship, you can basically like focus a mob, which basically declares to your group, I'm going to kick this one, and then your character's like name faceplate will appear next to the nameplate of the mob, and when you kick, it will then display your cooldown next to it. So basically, like it allows you to declare without saying anything to your group, I'm going to kick this one, and then when you do kick, it puts like everyone can on the nameplate see the cooldown of your kick on the mob. So if it's casting, the person who said this one's mine, their thing's on cooldown, and it's great, and I think they should just take it. The other part of Omni CD is tracking your group's cooldowns, essentially their personals and their cooldowns, and I think we can just get rid of that. I'm not saying that like there is not a space for that, and I do think a lot of like the upper echelon of players use that quite frequently. If I'm being entirely honest with myself as a healer, I am rarely looking at what personals my team has to use as much as I am looking at, okay, this big damage event is happening. Did that person just activate their personal? And that's not something that you necessarily need Omni CD for. Now, this gets into a whole nother conversation that I want to have with you, which is the big problem with this whole add-on thing is the current raid frames and group frames that exist in this game are not sufficient, not even close to sufficient, and they have not even introduced a prototype of what an improved version of that is going to look like yet. I believe Ian said they're working on it. Don't quote me on that, but I believe he said they're working on it. They're just not ready to show it yet. But that is something, if I'm worried about anything with this add-on stuff, that is what I'm worried about. But Omni CD tracking people's cooldowns, I think we can get rid of that. I think I don't need to know. I don't need to know. And I think that's something, if you really want to communicate that kind of stuff with your group, that's a thing you can communicate like audibly with your group.
That's fair. My biggest fear for losing it is like not even necessarily in pugs. It's when you're in a like 5-man group and then you can have one person call kicks.
Yeah, but that person hates it. Like that person does not like, yes, here's the tool that allows you to do that, but they don't enjoy doing that job. Like nobody likes doing that job. They just feel like they have to.
Right. So I do have a question for you, and this is jumping back to unit frames. Are we still in a world where the raid frames by default only show like 3 buffs and or debuffs, and you cannot decide what is on them?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah. Yes.
That-
And they've said that they're going to fix that. And that'll be part of these new frames. But like, so they're like, this is, as a healer, what do I need to see? I need to see health. I need to see which of my buffs are on people. I need to see what defensives are on there, whether they are personal or external. I need to see status effects, and like the one thing I'm worried about, losing, honestly, is changing bars colors when people have, like, the one thing I love about the current unit frames I have is that when someone has a poison, their whole frame turns green, and it's very recognizable for me. I can immediately go, that person's got a poison on them. I can dispel it. When someone's got a really nasty bleed on it, the atrocity UI we use puts like a like a moving frame around them that like blinks and flashes, and it's very obvious and easy to see these people have been targeted by the thing. They have the very difficult bleed on them. These are things that, as a healer, make the game much easier to deal with and play, and just to be able to follow damage as it happens and pre-plan for it. Like, I play a resto druid, and a lot of the stuff, like a lot of these bosses in Mythic Plus, like there's a ramp up, and then they're gonna pump like single target damage on someone, and if I'm not pre-hotting and getting ready for that damage, I'm screwed. Now, again, what am I doing right now? I am comparing the state of the game as it exists right now and saying, if they take these things away from me, I'm going to have a hard time. But they have stated that they are going to change how some of this stuff works, and so maybe it won't be a big deal at all. But I think the unit frames need just so much work, just an incredible amount of work, before I'm satisfied with them. So I hope that in the next couple weeks we'll get the first iteration of their improvement on this. I know it's not going to be Cell. It is never going to be something as infinitely customizable and incredible as Voodoo and Cell and these things, but I hope it's at least an approximation of those, because I think there's a lot of healers out there that are just like, oh, I hope we get something, because yeah, it's tough. The raid frames, man, are so bad. They're so bad.
Yeah, the limiting of number of like debuffs and buffs that can show, and not having like the ability to set a priority is crazy.
Yeah.
In a world, like, again, comparing it to the game is how it is now, but like, you go into one poll in Mythic Plus and you can have like 6 different debuffs on you at any given time, and like 5 of them don't matter, but the one will kill you.
I can't imagine a healer playing this game on base UI. Like, I just can't imagine it. I don't know how they, like, maybe they're out there. Find me a resto druid that's doing 12s and above in the base unit frames. Like, I just don't believe you. Send me a video, because I don't believe you. Like, it just seems absurd to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the other hand, Scott, before we move away from add-ons, we've alluded to like class design and everything. I want to get to that, but I do have to call out and give kudos where kudos are deserved. I think that the boss encounter stuff that they have done, at least this first pass, actually looks really good.
Yeah.
Like, as a first attempt at doing this, and it's only a timeline currently, but there's customization on how big you want it. Do you want names? Do you want to be able to hover it and have a tooltip on what the ability is? How like long do you want the bar? How big do you want the icons? Like, there's a ton of customization, and they've already said they're going to add the ability for you to have bars instead of a timeline, so more of like a DBM or a Bigwigs-esque feel. So I don't know. I do think they deserve a little bit of kudos here, because at a first glance, a first iteration from what I've seen on the alpha, this is not as worrisome as I initially went into this thinking it might be.
Yeah, I like it. I would appreciate some functionality to like exclude certain things from it. You know, there's things, if you're a DPS class, there's boss things that you don't care about. Like, you don't care about tank stuff, you don't care about healer stuff, and vice versa. It would be cool if you could just say, don't show me that. I don't need that. But as a good first pass, I agree with you. I like it a lot. And again, in a world where the timing of some of the stuff maybe changes because the encounter design has changed, I think it's going to be perfectly functional in that world, it seems. So I'm pretty excited about it. Like I just like overall worries aside, like I am closing my eyes and seeing a version of me getting beta and then actually like spending a decent amount of time playing in beta because I can just like hop in with the base UI, do some tweaking and customizing of the cooldown tracker and things like that. And like playing the game, like, and that's so exciting to me. And so another thing I think that people have been saying they need is a resource bar update. Currently, like with their kind of floating resource bar that they have, your health is attached to your mana. There's no existing way to like just say I want my mana bar. Like I have it, a lot of people have it. They have their weak aura of their buttons, of their most important cooldowns, and then right below it is, if you're a healer, there's your mana bar. There's no way to do that in the game right now, in the alpha. So I would like them to add something like that. But I think there's opportunities for all this stuff, and that not just mana, right? Like in the default UI, like the holy power resource bar, like frankly, it sucks. It's really bad.
Yeah. Combo points. Jesus.
Yeah. Like that stuff's not great. I hope they add like a way to customize those a little bit and separate health and mana from each other. But yeah, we're early. This is why they're doing this, right? This is why they decided to do this now and drop this now and like to give themselves maximum amount of time. I think one of the things that I heard another podcast talking about was this idea that when like the War Within went into alpha, it was alpha, sure, but it was like everyone playing was like shocked at how far along the game actually was. And alpha in that case was kind of like almost a beta, because the game was very, very far along. That's not what this is, right? The alpha that they're in right now is like a true, we don't know if this stuff's going to work. And we're throwing it out there and inviting people to come test it to like get actual feedback on whether our fundamental design choices for X, Y, and Z are working. And that's what alpha's for. So like, let's all calm down, people. The game is not out. If the game was coming out tomorrow, maybe I'd be freaking out too, but it's not.
Yeah. So the one final question that I have for you about add-ons, I just thought of this as we were talking about the cooldown manager, which to be clear, I just want to say cooldown manager, the resource bar should be a part of the cooldown manager instead of its own thing. I think at this point, like it needs to be integrated together with that because that's how the majority of weak auras work and that's how the majority of people play this game.
Yep.
I don't think that the personal resource display that displays under your character's feet and is super tiny is necessarily what people are wanting there. Like they want that completely integrated, almost like a weak aura in the center of their screen.
Yeah, so. I think the personal resource display sucks. I don't like it.
But the question I had is talking about the like DBM replacement and also the cooldown manager. We don't necessarily have the same level of like auditory cues that we currently do in the game. And I wonder, like, a lot of people have visual cues and they go off of those and those are great, but audio cues have been growing in the past like 5 or so years for this game. And I wonder how much that is going to like make things feel a little bit weird that you can't have like a countdown to an ability happening or something like that. And that's not to say they're not going to add it, but it's not currently there.
It's going to be a big change. I mean, they're like the cooldown manager as it exists in Midnight definitely allows you to do some audio cues for like you. I think you can set something to make noise when your thing comes off cooldown or when your thing procs. I think you can set that. But yeah, what you're talking about, the level of audio customization you can put in the game right now is incredible. You can just have the game announce audibly when you're supposed to press what buttons. Like I think the liquid timeline thing, like this is the thing I just want to say to people that are like doom and glooming the removal of add-ons is like, are you really having fun when like here's healing in some mythic raids is just putting your cooldowns in liquid timeline add-on and then just having it say tranquility in 5, and then that's just what you do. Like, is that really fun? And look, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like healing mythic is easy. It's not. It's like one of the hardest roles in mythic rating. I'm not underselling that, but like, is this fun? Is this fun, the world that we've created for ourselves, or like that's what we're doing now? Like, I mean, it's functional. Yeah. Is it great? Like, I've had text to speech on for abilities in uh in bigwigs for years now. I joke about them all the time because sometimes it gets some of the names of the things wrong. Um, but like, it would, like, is it going to be an adjustment for me to lose that? Like, I'm a very auditory person where like I learn what the big damaging ability is and I hear it, and me hearing it is how I know, oh, got to get ready for this big heal. Like, that's going to be adjustment for me 100%. But like, that's change that you just have to roll with it sometimes.
You know, that call of MRGGLRGGGGG or whatever, we're never gonna be able to hear that again, Scott.
I'm gonna miss cry of MRGG, and I'm gonna miss Jiggy Wallop. I'm gonna miss it so much.
There is some other good ones. But all right, well, there's still a ton to cover about add-ons. We might talk a little bit about it next week and the week after and the following week and yada 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 as we get more information and more alpha builds come.
Yeah, I do. The one thing before we move on, I do want to just make sure we mention is I read a very good post by someone from, I'm blanking on the name of the guild, but there's a deaf guild that operates and has been operating
Dauntless.
for some time. What, say it again?
Dauntless.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. And they wrote a very big post about how they are worried about what the stance will do for accessibility issues, that they are currently relying on a lot of combat add-ons to basically allow them to communicate with each other in ways that just will not be possible in the current build of the base UI in alpha right now. I think out of all the complaints and concerns I've seen about this design philosophy shift of Blizzard's, this is the one I think I am paying the most attention to and give the most credence to, because I think that is a valid concern. And I really hope that Blizzard like addresses accessibility, because I mean, one of the things that this world of add-on craft created was, this is truly just one of the most accessible game to differently abled people, because of just the infinite customizability that add-ons created in it, and Blizzard is taking that away, and so they should hopefully be cognizant of that, and hopefully come up with some way of tackling that. And I know Blizzard has added their own accessibility stuff independent of add-ons in the past. Some of it is better than others. I heard the colorblind mode doesn't work very well. But sure. I I think that is something to be conscious of. And I think that is one of, people, like, you have world first raiders complaining about the simplification of the game. I don't give a shit about those people, but like a deaf person saying, I don't think I will be able to play this game if it ships like it is right now. I think that's something that I am definitely listening to.
Yeah, for sure. And clarification, the guild name is Undaunted.
Yeah,
I was so close.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, accessibility things, I have gotten to a point where like we ship software with accessibility in mind now. And it would be almost criminal, in my opinion, to like have a huge regression in that, to the point of like, we have this guild who gets AOTC every single tier of every single expansion, and now they can't play the game. Like, that just doesn't seem like that should be the case. So they really need to make sure they nail that.
I have faith that they'll figure something out, but like, I'm not a developer, so please take this with a grain of salt. But like, I don't know how they do that in the current iteration of the design that exists right now. Like, I don't like how can they solve for that for a group of?
Yeah, I mean, if they add in some sort of thing that is supposed to be an accessibility option there, I mean, the majority of the public is probably going to use it as well. And
Yeah.
if that's what they're trying to avoid, then they should just bake that in and then look at the philosophy a little bit differently.
Yeah,
Like,
you poke a hole in that black box in the name of accessibility, a good thing. Like you've just poked a hole in the box, right? You've just
yeah,
given people a way to get inside of it, and so yeah, it's tough, man. I don't know. I have faith that they'll come up with something, and I'm like, I want to say like I'm sure, like I don't think people at Blizzard like read the Undaunted Reddit post and went like, fuck, we didn't think about that. Like I'm sure that has been something they were thinking about. I'm just interested to see what they ultimately end up saying and doing there.
I hope they give at least some members of that guild access to alpha. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. And
But
me also.
well, Scott, let's talk about some class design, healing design, and counter design. I don't know. I have these all detailed out in their own individual things, but I think they kind of go hand in hand and will probably bounce back and forth between all of them. But I think to simplify this, see what I did there? To simplify this for everybody, the game is just going to like your beat to beat thing that you do for your character is just generally going to get easier.
A little bit.
Now,
a little bit. Not too much. People are freaking out about how much, but
correct. I think that they're also misunderstanding the fact that the difficulty is not just going away.
Yeah.
They are shifting the difficulty into the fact that one, we don't have add-ons, and two, they're trying to make the encounters the difficult part of the game.
Right.
They're not trying to make like every class needs to have a PhD to be able to play it, levels of complexity to it. They're trying to simplify some classes and then make the actual like encounters more difficult. That's been the philosophy that they have put forward. And this extends to healing too, where they're like, healing is way too spiky. It requires way too much like prep. And if you fail the prep, you've already lost kind of levels of healing and cooldown management. And so that's changing. And again, why is that changing? Well, it's probably because we're not going to have the same amount of tools to tell when things are coming. So it's going to have to slow down a little bit. But
yeah, I mean, this is all about cognitive load, right? Like this is all about how much any given human's brain can take in and deal with at the same time. And essentially what add-ons have been doing for us for years and years and years is allowing us to offload a lot of our cognitive functions to the add-on. We don't have to think about this because the add-on's going to tell us when to do it, where to go, what to press, all that stuff. And that is largely going away. And so like in a world where you're trying to design encounters and classes in the game, knowing that people are going to offload a significant amount of their cognitive load to these things, you have to then increase the cognitive load that other things in the game are doing for you. For example, class design, right? Like the reason why these classes have become so popular or so complicated is because Blizzard was designing a game for people that are going to be offloading so much of just of the rotation and of the encounter to a weak aura that's doing things for them. So that's the arms race we're talking about here. And so it makes sense that hand in hand with the creation of this black box, with the removal of these add-ons, with the basically pushing the cognitive load back on the player, you have to then say, okay, maybe we've put too much in their brain now. If we just do that, that's too much for them. And so let's scale back some of the stuff from a class design we are expecting them to deal with minute to minute, second to second. And they're doing this in a way that I think makes a lot of sense, but is freaking a lot of people out because they're basically like, let's tear it down to bare bones first, and then we can look at it and build back in as we go, right? Like one of the big things I saw from a healing perspective was Restoration Shaman, which was absolutely gutted. They removed so many abilities from it and everyone's freaking out about it. And I understand the reason for that. Like you cut a lot of their core abilities, you cut a lot. But like here's the other thing about Resto Shaman. they have so many abilities that interact with each other, and like so many things to track, and like there's like 6 different buffs that if you cast this many times or you do this for this, it spend this much mana, it means your chain heal is going to be super fast and bounce to new people, and all these these things that you need weak auras to track. Like they have to cut all that stuff out because you can't track that anymore. And I think it's ridiculous. Like you look at a weak aura set for a restoration shaman, like just so many things popping up that are like tracking all these different little enhancements and buffs to one spell to make it uber powerful. And because we won't have those tracking things anymore, like that stuff just has to change. And so we've cut a lot of stuff out. And I think they will build back slowly over time. I think they will. But this is the way they're testing it.
So the biggest thing that I've seen is for anybody who played the game during Warlords of Draenor, something happened called the Great Pruning, and in that, a bunch of abilities were either combined or removed, which is essentially what is happening now. That being said, I think that people need to remember 2 different things. One, in Warlords, a lot of core abilities, things that were like flavorful to your class or your spec, were removed and changed.
Mm-hmm.
They're not necessarily doing that here. Like your core, to its bare bones, like what your class fantasy is, should relatively be intact currently.
Sure.
And if it's not, that is something that you need to like let Blizzard know on, because I don't think that their intention is to shake that up. The second thing is people hear this happened in Warlords and therefore it's bad. But I think people fail to remember that Warlords had some very good raids. Warlords had actually some okay class design, but got a bad rap because of the content droughts and everything that we had. Like the release cycles were the problem in Warlords, and the mission table and the garrison, not necessarily the encounter design or the class design or anything like that. So
yeah,
just because something is synonymous with something that happened before doesn't mean they're going to make the same mistake again. So just be a little careful with that. And I think my biggest thing is, if you are somebody who is playing at the absolute highest echelon and you like the fact that you have complicated things to do and there's a lot of skill expression and everything like that, I don't think that that's necessarily going away. I think it's going to be lessened, and I think it's going to be, again, shifted into encounter design. Like, can you pre-position for something so that you don't have to cancel your cast and move, and things like that. Like a lot of things that I'm seeing, they're getting rid of mobility as well. So like the ability to like cast and move for a lot of people is either getting changed or removed or reduced. So it's going to be a lot of like positioning things, making sure that you have defensives for things that you need. Like in defensive pruning, it isn't necessarily a bad thing that you actually have to think, do I need a defensive to live this? Versus I have 15 defensives, I might as well just use them on every single boss hit. Like,
or just the idea that because you have 15 defensives, every hit will kill you, so you have to have a defensive for every single hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, like, to be entirely honest, no shade on this person whatsoever, but I could give a fuck what Hopeful thinks about the complicated nature of specs in this class. You are the best player at a certain class in the game. None of these changes are for you. This is not about you whatsoever. And I understand your perspective is one of, I don't like this. I liked it better the old way because I'm the best at this, but this is not for you. And it's like, that's the way it goes sometimes. There are way more of middle of the road mage players than there are of hopefuls. And it is for those people that a lot of these changes are being made. I think that's just the way I feel. And sorry to Hopeful. I'm sure he listens.
Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to say is I wouldn't get too married to how classes look on the first build of an alpha. Like,
No.
things are going to change, abilities are going to change or be added or be removed. I mean, we just had the second alpha update today on the 8th, and they're already adding new talents. They're already adding new things. Like, there are so many things in the talent trees for a lot of classes that are still marked work in progress. And even if things aren't marked work in progress, that doesn't mean they're not going to either be changed or moved or removed or replaced. Like,
Yeah.
all of that is going to change. We are in an alpha. You should expect these things to be shooken up.
Yeah.
Or shaken up. I think the biggest thing is just understand that they are going for a little bit of a simplification of classes. And I don't necessarily think that you should take that as the game is just getting easier, because they're trying to shift that difficulty elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like, I
Well,
think that's the right way to think about it.
I mean, I guess it's a question I have for you because, like, from my perspective as a healer, like, I don't care about like complicated class. Like, let's be honest here. The complexity of healing is not like rotational. It's not like the quote unquote healing rotation is not difficult to execute. It's just knowing what to do when and making split second choices and decisions on who to save and how to do these things, and like, and understanding the encounters and where the damage is coming from. So like, I hear like simplification of class design and I'm like, I'm fine, whatever. But you as a DPS player, like, what is your perspective on this?
I mean, we need to be crystal fucking clear who we're talking to here, first and foremost. I play Rep Paladin and Hunter as my like two main things. Like, I have been towing the line of like, play the simplest class that you can so that you have the ability to have cognitive ability for everything else that's going on in this game for a very long time. So this is straight up my alley, because this means that I'm going to be able to play some specs that I have written off, because not because I can't learn them or because anything like that, but if they're too difficult for me to figure out quickly, then I'm probably going to put it down for something that I can pick up quickly. That way I can get into doing dungeons and everything else.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, this is all good changes. Like, I'm all for simplifying things, but I think that we need to be a little careful, because if we get ourselves in the situation that Fellowship is currently in with DPS classes, where everything feels very samey and very unimpactful, and it's just hit this button when off cooldown,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to feel bad. So there still needs to be some class identity. There needs to be some differences between each class and spec. There needs to be reactive gameplay. There needs to be classes that just have their set rotation and that's what they do. Like, there has to be this like melting pot of things. Like, that is going to be more scary to me than things being on the simpler side.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, again, I'm not a DPS player, but I agree with you. Like, if I look at the idea of cognitive load and like, where do I want a larger percentage of my brain power to be on in any given moment in the game, I would rather it err towards encounter difficulty and encounter mind thought than the moment to moment, beat to beat, like, complexity of your class. You need some of that. Like, I'm not saying it should. I'm not saying everything should go down to like 1 button, 2 button, 3 button, whatever. You need some of that, but I would rather the it teeter towards most of your brain power in any given encounter is spent on the encounter itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that makes for the best fights too. That makes for the most memorable fights. It makes for the most engaging fights. And it makes for fights where it like makes people actually work together and think. I mean,
Yeah. And
let's
it's more dynamic too, because like your class rotation is not going to fundamentally change, but like encounters change. There's always new stuff to fight, right? So like,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, part of that is I wonder if they feel the pressure of like, because I mean, since the talent trees have come out, there's been like constant kind of iteration and redesign of classes. And I wonder if part of the pressure of their feeling they need to do that is so much of the gameplay of WoW in the weak aura era is making the classes feel fresh and new and exciting, because so much of like the encounter side of things is handled by the weak auras.
Yeah, fairly stale too.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, you can walk into a new boss and not read anything, right? And you can say, "Oh, that's a stack marker. Oh, that one doesn't have the little swirly in it,
Yeah.
so maybe I should run that out."
Yeah.
Oh, somebody has a dispel. We'll dispel it and see what happens. Oh, it's split. Maybe we wait a little bit to dispel. Like,
Yeah.
you can go in and you can figure out the game pretty fast right now. And they have used so many things at this point. Like, I I think the best example of this is for anybody who is playing at the end of Dragonflight. There were the lines that come off of you during the Fyrek fight. And if you move, the lines move with you. And those have been reused a lot since Fyrek.
They
and
love
what
that
do we
shit.
call them? We call them Fyrek lines.
Yeah.
We don't say lines that move with you. Like, that right there just goes to show, like, they can make new things and will continue to make new things, but they reuse a lot of stuff too. And so
Yeah.
if a weak aura solved it before, it's going to solve it again.
Well, and in the world of weak auras, like, I think the reason why blaze lines were used so often is because those were a thing that you could not solve with the weak aura. Like, that they invented a mechanic that really there was no weak aura solve for it. You just have to move. You have to position yourself. This is very organic. And like, in a world where you're kind of so hemmed in from a design perspective by weak auras, like you come up with an idea that's weak aura proof, and you jump on that idea and you keep it. You have to keep it in your pocket because there's such a limited amount of things you can do in any given encounter. And so the hope here, the dream here, is that you take that out, you make combat a black box. You don't have to worry about those things. The sky's the limit. What can you do? You can do anything because you don't have to worry about it being easily solved by something. And so it maybe spurs creativity, opens up potential new design stuff that we've just never seen before. And I think there's always gonna be the things, right? There's always gonna probably be stacks and spreads. Like, these are just like core like gameplay things in a multiplayer game like this. But there's also just the sky's the limit for a lot of the stuff. So
yeah. Scott, I have a quick question, and this is going back to add-ons a little bit, but I was just thinking, I currently use a weak aura for my Mythic Plus timer. And in that weak aura, it tells me like the current count that we have in like any given poll of things I'm in combat with.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance in hell that they add that functionality to the base timer? Because one, weak auras are going away. Two, I don't think that data is going to be available for things like warp deplete anymore. So,
is there a chance in hell? Sure. Would I expect it to be there? No. What I will say is, because they kind of added this idea that like the black box is only a box when you're in combat, there is possibly the ability to have a thing like warp deplete like immediately update the second you drop combat. That's a possibility, but it would not be able to show you like we can right now, where we're fighting a pack and we know exactly how much % we're going to get from this pack, which allows us to plan how much more we have to pull. That is going away. Now, I could make an argument for why that should probably be included in the base UI, because I think it does allow for a lot of decision making around that. But I don't know.
yeah, I don't know why that just came into my head when we were talking about everything else, but
no, you're right.
It did make me realize that I am a little concerned about my Mythic Plus timer, because the base Mythic Plus timer is just dog shit.
Yeah.
It's so fucking bad.
I don't like it. Yeah. And I like things I like the tracking of the timer you and I use of like, on your best attempt, you killed it in this, so you're like 20 seconds behind. Maybe that's functionality that you'd still be able to have because you can get that when out of combat, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah. We're also not going to have the weak aura that lets us know if we have enough count in a given area anymore.
Yeah. Sad.
So sad.
But it's just like there are going to be growing pains. There are going to be trade-offs. There are going to be things we're going to lose that we like. But I, for one, am excited about what the future brings in spite of all that stuff.
I would assume MDT still works.
It
And if that
should.
still works, then you can still route in game.
Yeah.
I mean, and if not, they have tools to do it outside of game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Can we talk about healing? Let's talk about healing for a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So they released a post about their healing philosophy, and it has all the right words in it, and it makes me very happy. Healing is too bursty. There are too many cooldowns. There are too many defensives. And so it makes it so healers have the ability to push up health bars really, really fast, which means they have to do really bursty damage. And this all sounds great. And it sounds so great that they made the same post for the last 2 expansions. It's the same post. That being said, I think I am more confident about their ability to actually solve this problem this time than I have been for the last 2 expansions. Because they noted this as a problem in Dragonflight. They noted this as a problem in the War Within. And their methods of solving this were basically like, maybe we'll give you more hit points so the heals heal you for a little bit less comparatively. And that didn't work. And then maybe we'll change tanking up a little bit, so you have to heal the tank. And that didn't really work. They didn't address what was the core problem of this whole thing, which is that healers have too many cooldowns and everyone had too many defensives. So like if you're a healer and you have 5 cooldowns, then you have to design the game around frequent cooldown use, which means you have to make everything that you're doing outside of your cooldown windows not do any healing. And it's the same for damage, by the way. It's a very similar problem. It's like you have to have all these things that combine together to make good damage that all your base damage doesn't do anything. And same with healing. All your base healing outside of these windows did shit because you had so many windows that you could just burst people up. And what happened in that is that if you used your cooldowns wrong, everyone's fucking dead. There's no it's the Holy Paladin problem with everyone. It's like a Holy Paladin with wings up is like a god and no one will die. But a Holy Paladin, once wings is gone, like struggles to keep people up. And the gameplay loop of Holy Paladin for so long was just like heal everyone during wings and then hopefully survive until wings is up again. And like that was the case for a lot of healers. And so what they're doing is they're taking away healer cooldowns. Like one of the big ones is Resto Druids just lost Flourish. Flourish is now something that enhances tranquility. It's not a button you press. It's just an enhancement of tranquility. And then for a lot of other ones, they've made a lot of your big cooldowns a choice node. So if you are a Resto Shaman, you choose between Healing Stream Totem or Healing Tide Totem, the group, the AoE one, and Ascendance. You have to choose between those 2 things now. You don't get both of them. And they've removed defensives. So they haven't removed defensives, I think, equally across the board. I think more work needs to be done there, but they are working at pruning defensives and taking away defensive ability. And those 2 things combined, I think maybe will get us to a place where healing is not quite so split-second decision. You have 1 or 2 globals to get everyone's health bar to full, or they're all going to die. I am more confident with this post than I have been with the last 2 that they are finally addressing the root issue here.
So I have one question, and then I have a couple of other comments. In your opinion, then, is triage healing fun? Because that is what the majority of healing gameplay, I think, is looking to be like if they nail this.
I think so. I mean, I think just like the idea of healing being kind of spinning plates, and you're having to make decisions on who to focus on in any given moment, and it requires you to know damage patterns. I mean, it's like an encounter that requires you to know damage patterns, so you know I have 30 seconds to push everyone's health bar up, but this person just got targeted by this thing and I have to deal with that now, but I have this other thing in the back of my mind, versus something like Priory of the Sacred Flame Paladins that is basically just like every 10 seconds, they're going to fire off a big AoE that's going to bring everyone down to 20%. And you have between 2 and 5 seconds to get everyone back to full. And that's just going to be the loop. And that's just the world that you're existing in. You fuck up even one global in that and someone's dead. Hell, a kick gets off or a kick doesn't get pressed and someone firebolts someone right when the thing goes out and they're dead. That's not fun. Right, that's not fun for me. Is it fun to do high numbers? Is it fun to watch bar go up really fast? Sure, that's fun. But like some of the most fun healing I have is like the rot bosses, right? Like the halls of origination or infusion, whichever one was the Dragonflight one. With that, I honestly don't remember. Is it Infusion?
I think it's Halls of Infusion, but
yeah.
now I'm like second guessing myself.
That rot boss, and then like the Candle King and the Swamp boss, and in like those bosses are really fun because it's just like this slow. It's spinning plates. It's this slow, persistent damage over time that you have to deal with. And I'm not saying every boss has to be a rot fight boss, but just like slowing the process down and still making me feel like I have agency in keeping people alive, but not making it quite so twitchy. And you like you use a cooldown or everyone dies, and then outside your cooldowns, you just kind of feel like you suck. I think that's better. So yeah, I mean, a long way to answer your question is yes, I think triage healing is fun.
So then if that is the world which we're going to, right? Essentially no healer right now has trouble with mana. Do we need to bring mana back into the equation to have some, like, because there's a constraint on healers at all times always, right? In raid, it is mana. I mean, not in recent history, but in the past, it has been mana in raid and like cooldowns in Mythic Plus. But since we're getting rid of some of the cooldowns and we're slowing things down, does mana need to be a constraint on healers in Mythic Plus again, or no?
That's a good question. I feel like there's a better way to restrict and control output and allow decision making outside of just here's this big resource that you have to constantly maintain. But I don't know. I mean, I think what they focused on in their post was it's going to be less about the power of like big 1 minute cooldowns, 2 minute cooldowns, and more about amping the power of your shorter cooldowns. So like I think one thing they specifically pointed out, like with druids, is Wild Growth is this like core key spell for restoration druids and has been so for years and years and years, and it's like a 10-second cooldown. Wild Growth. Wild Growth sucks right now. It's really bad in and of itself, and kind of the only reason you cast it, at least in a Mythic Plus environment, is because it interacts with your tier set and your hero talent to help facilitate that healing, because it allows proccing of your Bloodseeker Vines or whatever the good version of those is, procs off of Wild Growth, and that's like the only reason you press it, because Wild Growth by itself does nothing. So the idea of maybe not taking the impetus off cooldowns and putting it on mana management, but taking the impetus off long cooldowns and putting a lot more power and importance on managing a handful of shorter cooldowns, I think is attractive to me. So I think that's a potential.
So one thing, make sure you don't Swift Mend before you Wild Growth anymore.
Oh my God. Yeah. So
so you know,
they took away. So this since Shadowlands or before, I can only say since Shadowlands because that's when I started playing again. But you Swift Mend, it activates an ability that buffs your next regrowth by a whole lot and your next Wild Growth by a whole lot. And especially in a raid environment, but even in a 5-man environment with a lot of AoE damage, you just Swift Mend and Wild Growth. That's what you do. You just hit Swift Mend. Honestly, I already need to have stopped doing that because, like I said, Wild Growth sucks so much right now that in a 5-man, Swift Mending the Wild Growth is almost always the bad call. But I'm just so just muscle memory. I just do it without thinking, and I've been trying to fix it, and now they've changed the talent that where it doesn't even interact with Swift Mend at all. So it's not that's not a decision point. It's, I believe they switched it from wild growth to rejuve, which is interesting. So it's a choice between like bombing a big immediate heal on someone that does like 200% more healing, or putting a fat hot on someone, which I think goes into the triage thing we're talking about, right? Like that's do you need in this moment, do you need a big immediate heal on someone, or do you need to prep for like more rot damage on someone? I think that's cool, and I like that choice.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember back to when we were playing Kata, but I'm pretty sure that talent is in Cataclysm too, where you want to swift men before you wild growth.
Wow.
I'm like pretty sure. But not to get into class specifics as a whole, but I want to call out one thing that I thought was really, 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 really disgusting that you told me today. And that's Paladin's Holy Shock replaces Crusader Strike.
This is the latest build. Yeah, they just announced this today.
What?
Yeah. So I think
serious?
I think what they're trying to do is kind of control and limit the builders in Holy Paladin, the things that build holy power. And so one thing they're trying, and again, this is alpha, they even say in the dev notes for this change is like, hey, we're just trying this to see like, what if you don't have Crusader Strike anymore? What if you just have Holy Shock? And that's you've, I guess in essence, two builders, right? You have Holy Shock and then you have Judgment, or I don't think you build any other way. Maybe
I don't know enough about Holy Paladin.
Maybe Prism. No, Prism procs something that gives you a free holy power spender. It doesn't actually build. So anyway, yeah, but like that was a shocking thing for me as well. That's one of those changes that I wonder if ends up being reverted. They're like, we're going to try this out, and we'll see how it goes. And maybe in the next build, we'll be like, nope, didn't work. Back. They did a thing similar to this with Mistweaver Monk, where they took away Jadefire Stomp. This has been kind of the fist weaving build since Dragonflight, that you stomp and then standing in your Jadefire buffs your ancient teachings and buffs your ability to. It's just a core part of the rotation is you lay this down and you stand in it to do healing. They got rid of it. They just made the buffs that it gave you passive, and that was like part of the simplification, part of the making the game easier to track outside of the existence of weak auras. But it's also has become like a core identity of the class. And so lo and behold, in the build today, there's a new talent that brings back Jadefire Stomp. Sort of. It makes it so when you use Thunder Focus T on one ability, you will also stomp. Which obviously I haven't played it. I'm not an alpha, but I like that they're experimenting with. That's the whole point, right? They're trying this stuff out. They're experimenting. They're seeing how does this play? How does this feel? I think that the challenging part with healing in this, though, is that right now in alpha, there's nothing that exists that is difficult to heal.
Right.
Like it's leveling dungeons, right? It's like there's nothing, like you barely need to heal in leveling dungeons. You basically don't need a healer. So like I am curious like how quickly into the alpha we will get to actually bringing encounters that are hard, and push healing to really test out where healing's at right now.
Yeah, this second build that came out yesterday or today increased the level cap to 86, I think. I think it was previously 83 and you started at 80. And so if they keep up with that, I mean, the pace should pick up pretty quickly and then you'll get to max level content. But I mean, what is that? Is that heroic dungeons? Is that mythic dungeons? Those don't require healing either. So
yeah, they don't. I don't know. I mean, I haven't paid too much attention to the beta cycle, but I don't know how much like Mythic Plus and raid testing they do in alpha. I don't know. So that just might be stuff we have to wait for beta for. Which who knows when that's going to be. Like they released this thing, this like five stage alpha plan, and then everyone's like, oh, that's interesting. And I think we all just kind of assumed that was like, oh, we're going to advance to the next stage every 2 weeks. And then 1 week later, we're in stage 2 of alpha. So like, is this going to be a weekly thing? Are we going to do 5 weeks of alpha and then boom, we're in beta in November? Maybe. I don't know.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd have to buy the game. I still haven't done that.
All right. So, Scott, there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about with kind of the simplification here. Again, to be clear, this is a little bit of a meme, but we have had multiple comments on our videos in the past saying they're doing this because it's a console port. There's still been no saying that this is going to happen. But I have a feeling that that's going to come up again. And I still don't know that that's the world we're in yet.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Like, sure. I'm sure there's someone in the building at Microsoft right now that's saying, man, we could make a lot of money off this game if you could also play it on Xbox. But I don't know. Like, here's the bottom line with this whole thing. All it comes down to is, do you trust Blizzard to do a good job with this stuff? And the people that don't are out. And okay, I'm not going to be able to convince you otherwise. What I would say is, let's maybe give them the benefit of the doubt. They don't want to make a bad game. That they don't like. Nobody at Blizzard wakes up in the morning and says, "I'm going to really fuck shit up today." That's not what they do. So I don't know. It's early alpha. Maybe if it's 3 months later and we're still at the exact state we are right now, we can start being like, I don't think these guys are going to pull this off. But I don't know. Let's give a little grace, a little benefit of the doubt, and let's just see. Let's just see what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, and this is a fucking great segue, Scott. Can we talk about one place that they did shit the bed? And that is with the current iteration of this turbo boost garbage.
Why did they do this? I don't understand this. So, Tevin, explain what they just to remind people of what they did.
Yeah, so Turbo Boost is essentially split up this time. So no longer is it Turbo Boost happens, you get the 2 additional track upgrades for both hero and myth track items, as well as an additional 6 or 7 item levels on your crafted gear with an item that you recraft, as well as getting uncapped crests. All we did with this turbo boost was add the additional tracks, add the extra item level, but the uncapping of crests hasn't happened. Dinars hasn't happened. They announced something to where, like, if you have your 4-piece, then you're gonna get additional catalyst charges. That's not in the game. So like the boost part of this, what I would call the boost part of this, is just not here. Like, it's essentially just giving us the ability to have higher item level gear without giving us the tools to get said higher item level gear, because crests are capped. We can't get more crests than we currently have as the cap, and that cap isn't going away for a couple of weeks still. So this just seems like I would have rather them than just push this part of it off until the crest cap got removed, or bring the crest cap forward.
I mean, yeah, like, why? I think one of the things we said when they announced Turbo Boost and it seemed like the time was happening is this feels too early. And when Turbo Boost is actually really going to start, which is the 21st of October, that is about the same time it dropped last season. And that makes sense. That is seemingly the correct time. But yeah, why they decided to split it off like this, I have no idea. We reasoned that maybe they're trying to like time gate the boost that they get participation wise from Turbo Boost. Maybe that's part of their decision making process. I don't know. We'll see what the data looks like this week. I would guess that keystones are not going. You're not going to see the number of keystones completed graph jump significantly higher this week. Maybe it'll go up a little bit. Maybe it'll go down by less. I haven't done any keys this week yet. I'm gonna definitely fill my vault. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna max my gilded crests, but I'm not running out to like do this right away because like I'm capped. Like, yeah, oh great. All my 5 myth pieces I have on my character right now, I can upgrade those all to 2 levels. Guess what? I don't have enough crests to do that. I don't have enough. So it doesn't make sense to do that. So I might as well just like leisurely take my time and do my weekly lockout stuff and then hit the Turbo Boost stuff hard when Turbo Boost actually begins on the 21st of October. it's dumb. I think, again, to be charitable and to have grace, I think they will look at this and say, yeah, this ultimately didn't make sense to do it this way, and maybe next time we won't do this.
I struggle to see a world in which, like, what, I don't know what they were going for here, because like I I don't see how they think that this would bring people, because on one hand you've got the higher level players who are like, oh well, we know Turbo Boost is coming, we're just not going to play until Turbo Boost.
Mhm.
So like you cut out a bunch of players from that, and then you release Turbo Boost and it's half-assed, and maybe some of those players come back because they're like, oh, Turbo Boost is here, we can get a couple of higher item level pieces. I don't know. I'm doubtful on that. I imagine they're going to wait until they can get a bunch of crests as well, but who knows? And then the people who have been playing, you're like, congratulations, here's higher item level gear that you can't get to higher item level because you're limited to 90. Like, if you've been playing the whole time, right, you get 90 additional crests, but you have the potential, like you said, you have 5 myth pieces. That's what, 30 times, so 150 crests that you need just to upgrade those. Not even talking about crafted items.
Yeah,
because crafted items,
4 crafted items that also need 30 each. Yeah. It just gets ridiculous. And all my hero items still also need 30 each as well. Or I guess
yeah,
technically 20 because you have the discount on those now. But wait, no. Yes.
yes, you should probably have
No,
the
because
discount
it's
on
still
hero.
gilded crests. No, yeah, I won't. Yeah. It's still going to take 30
Oh,
for
true.
hero track items too. So yeah, like I mean, I did the math when Turbo Boost came out in season 2, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna need to run like 30 fucking dungeons this week. And guess what I did? I ran like 30 fucking dungeons because I was like, hell yeah, look, I have gear to upgrade, and I have the method to upgrade that gear right in front of me, and that's fun. I'm gonna do it. To here, I'm like, sweet, I have gear to upgrade, and I can't do it. So okay.
I just think that this has fallen flat on its face, and this is kind of what you and I predicted would happen if they did this. We were a little bit weirded out why they were doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
I was hopeful that they would change their minds on this and either delay one part or bring forward the other part. None of that happened. It released the way that it did. And I guess we can revisit this here in a couple weeks when the entirety of this is out, and we have more to say on it. But all I want to say is, Blizzard, if you're listening, please don't do it this way again. This made absolutely no sense and is more just of annoyance than anything, because it's like it's like you take a kid to a candy shop, right? And then you're just like, look at all this wonderful candy, and we're leaving.
I wonder if this was the result of a fear that if they released Legion Remix by itself, that it would, until Turbo Boost actually starts, completely gut the Mythic Plus scene and like ruin the ecosystem. There which would not be enough people participating for the people that wanted to participate to actually find groups and get to run keys. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that holds any water, but I wonder if there was this fear that we're not ready for Turbo Boost. Turbo Boost should not be until the 21st, so we're not going to do it until the 21st. But timeline wise, to give for whatever numbers we crunch to give people maximum amount of time to go through Remix, we have to launch Remix on the 7th. But I'm terrified that we will kill the ecosystem of retail if we don't also at that same time give retail something. This, again, pure conjecture, don't know, but I wonder if that was part of the thought process.
I mean, it might be. My response to that is maybe a little bit of a hard ass response, but like, this is a problem you created yourself. You
Yes.
know, like,
Yes.
maybe don't have 15 different versions of the game if you're worried about splintering your player base on one version of the game.
Yeah.
Like, that's ultimately what is going to happen. So,
Yep.
yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about Turbo Boost. It's a sad state in which it is. And then as far as Legion Remix goes, I think we should probably hold that discussion off until next week. You and I have played with it for about a day now, but I think we'll have more to say on it next week.
What I will say briefly, and yeah, I think I can speak more intelligently on it next week when I've actually spent more time in it. But in the weeks leading up to it, I found myself pretty indifferent to it and wasn't even sure if I was going to play. And then I logged in yesterday on a whim because I was like, I want to play World of Warcraft. I don't really see the point in doing my keys right now. I'll get those done later. I don't feel a lot of drive to get my keys done because the turbo boost stuff. So I'll just pop onto Remix and I've been having fun. So whether it's going to be long-term fun, whether it's going to stop being like this casual thing that I can do into something that the game is demanding me take it more seriously and that hurts it, I don't know, we'll see. But right now I'm like level 30 something. It's been like fun, quick, easy. So yeah, we can talk more about it next week, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and for you, it's a bunch of quests and zones and everything that you've never experienced before, which is, I think, that's a unique viewpoint to have. So I'd be interested to see what you're thinking on this when we do chat next week.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, I want to save the rest of it for next week because I am very fearful that if we don't at least save something, we might get nothing for next week. Also, if we go into depth on anything else that was announced, or anything like that, we're going to be significantly over time. So unless there's anything else that you want to call out, Scott, I think that the goal for us should be keep a pulse on how alpha's looking, how classes are starting to shake out, what their like philosophies are, and if they're nailing that. And then like keep an eye on housing and everything like that too.
Yeah, that sounds great. Can we do one thing before we go though?
Yeah.
Valor Stones are
they're gone. Yeah.
gone.
There's been so much shit happening, and then we get the one thing that you and I have been asking for forever, and it just like kind of gets shoved under the rug because of all the other announcements and shit that happened. Yeah, that was okay. Can we like? It was a little bit weird that happened just randomly at the end of a Q&A, right? Like that wasn't a little bit more of an announcement.
I think they were saving it for that moment. Like it seemed like, like this was a live Q&A, but they obviously like looked like all the questions were submitted ahead of time. They screened them, they picked the ones they wanted to use, and they ignored the ones they didn't want to do. And it was definitely like intentionally set up that's like what one of, if not the question they ended things on, because they knew it was going to be very popular.
Yeah, well, I think on top of that, we didn't talk about the crests renaming either. And we don't necessarily know how these are going to work, so I don't want to get into the like the intricacies on like crest upgradings and stuff like that. But gone are the days where we have to sit down and we have to explain every person who decides that they want to come back to WoW what the hell the difference between weathered and carved and gilded and rune, like those are gone, and they're doing like a smart naming structure of heroic and myth and other item tracks that we currently already fucking have in the game. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. There's still some open questions on exactly how that's going to work, but that's fine. I'm running with a lot of assumptions because they've like it's been announced that they're doing this, and there's a lot of assumptions on what that means, but that's all they are, just assumptions.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that we didn't talk about that was somewhat relevant was the appearance stuff. I think that's pretty big for you. The appearance thing, where if you get the highest tier appearance, then you get all the ones below it. If you get like the highest set, you get all the ones below it.
Yeah, they really fucked with my emotions with this, because first they announced that and I was like, oh, that's awesome. I never have to do LFR ever again in my entire life. But then they also added the caveat that, oh, by the way, upgrading your gear past a certain item level will no longer trigger the new set. So for those that don't know, right now you can get the quote unquote myth version look via a hero track piece that you just upgrade to I think it's the last 2 levels of hero track is when that unlocks. But I think as they're changing the upgrade system and how the upgrade system works, and how hero track gear is only upgradable by hero crests, myth track gear is only upgradable by myth crests. I think they had this idea that, okay, well, that's, you're never going to transition from one to the other really anymore. They're just going to overlap in some of their item levels, and so we'll just make each have their own unique look. This is the hero track version of the tier set. This is the myth track version of the tier set. So that's what they said, and predictably, the response to that was people were pissed off, and they have since then reversed that decision, and it will still work like the way it used to work. Which, like, I like. That's a good. It's a good. I'm glad they listen to people, and I'm glad people that don't do like mythic raid and high level keys can at least get the appearance of the myth track appearance. Like, that's something for them to work towards, and I'm glad it is still going to be in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a little bit of a whiplash when it came out, though. That was, I remember so we have a group chat with Scott, myself, and one of our other friends, and we posted in there, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is awesome! This is sick!" And then, like, obviously that was reactions from the headline, and then we actually read it, and we were like, "Oh wait, what the fuck is going on here?"
Yeah,
and it was completely different vibe change on how we felt about it.
It's such a self-owned. They announced this incredibly awesome new idea that's good, that people have been asking for forever, and then they just sprinkle in a terrible decision on top of that.
But all right, well, in light of trying to wrap this up before we go too super long, I do want to say I think it is very clear that Scott and myself are extremely excited for Midnight, given all the information that we have, and design philosophy and everything like that. Scott and I are very positive on this. That being said, I am able to acknowledge that these are very polarizing changes and polarizing topics. So I want to hear what you guys have to think about add-ons, like the class design philosophy, healer philosophy, the encounter philosophy, just like anything that was announced in this giant unveiling that we had. Please just drop that in the comments. Let's have a discussion on it. But as always, you can contact us over at yellingintothevoidwow@gmail.com. YouTube is at yellingintothevoidwow, and Twitter and Blue Sky are both at intothevoidwow.
And if you would like to support us, we would love for you to subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, on Apple, on iHeartRadio. Is that still one? Sure.
That is one.
On YouTube, just anywhere and everywhere. We're all over the place. Please subscribe to it. Please make sure you don't miss an episode. We have lots to talk about still. There's lots of alpha stuff coming up. Eventually beta will be here, and like a good capitalist, I'm going to buy my way into beta. And so we will get to talk to you all about how we're feeling about the game.
I mean, at the very least, Scott and I will be able to talk to you guys about housing here in December. So
yeah, that's true.
That.
How much time do you think you're going to spend on your house?
Dude, how much time? Like, how much is there going to be to do in December? Like, we're not going to have the like progression system and shit. So I'm imagining probably not a ton.
Still just banging away at Legion Remix. That's what we're going to be doing.
Probably. You get housing items from doing Legion Remix, so why not?
Fuck. Brilliant.
But all right, guys, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting on the YouTube video, Spotify. All of that helps us get more exposure, helps introduce us to new people. So if you like what we do here, that's the best way to support us and help us out there. But until next week, guys, we'll just be over here yelling into the void. But without add-ons, will we be able to tell if the void is yelling back? The void never yells back, Scott. Does for me. I got an add-on for it.